What's up, folks? This is Dan from Discern. Welcome to episode 15 of the Discern Recap. On this show, each week I recommend to you my favorite new albums, EPs, or singles from the broad category of Christian music. New episodes of this show release every Wednesday. And if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, if you enjoy this show, please subscribe to the channel. That's the best way to make sure you don't miss any new episodes. If you'd like to reach out, you have something to say, positive or negative, you can comment below. You could tweet at me at discernreviews. You could email me, discernreviews@gmail.com. I've got recommendations this week. I do. If you didn't notice, last week I just wasn't feeling any of the new releases. I didn't have any recommendations, but I definitely have some this week. 4, in fact. And what I ended up realizing from last week until now is that a lot of the music I discover that ends up being a recommendation is music that you really have to dig for to find. Each week I peruse a number of music websites, online magazines, to see what new music is dropping, but a lot of times the best music comes from obscure tweets where someone retweets some small artist new release, and those small artists are often doing the most groundbreaking and exciting work out there. They're not afraid to take risks, to experiment, push the boundaries a bit. But you gotta dig, if you want to find those artists. They aren't plastered on every, music website's homepage. All that to say, if you want to recommend things to me, as some of you did after last week's show, please do. Thank you to those of you who did recommend some new music. Keep it up. I've said it before. I will give anything an honest listen. Seriously. I will try it out. Anything. So, if you have recommendations for me, pour them on. Let me know. With that, let's move on to this week's recommendations. Number 1, My Epic with the single Memoir. My Epic is alternative and sort of an indie rock band from Charlotte, North Carolina. They have released a few albums and an EP since their inception in 2005. The band joined the label Face Down Records just a few years ago in 2013 and have only released one album under that label. This single, Memoir, is the second single that's been released off their upcoming EP, Viscera, which is actually dropping in just a few weeks on May 5th. This single is a moody, emotionally driven song that boasts some powerful, gospel-laden lyrics and dramatic instrumental performances. The song starts by slowly fading in like a subtle, crunchy electronic drum groove, just enough to give the song some stable footing. Then this cold, distant piano comes in, the highs just stuck in this cyclical drone-like repetition, and the bass lines bringing this weightiness. And the vocals come in, delivering these crushing, despairing lines about being chained to sinful vices, and that are so destructive. I mean, the lyrics say, "Just let me die." And then in this context, in this morose darkness, the piano fades away and this serene, bright guitar comes in and the vocals sort of reposition, focusing on the glorious gospel that declares that, the wrath that should have been poured out on us was poured out on God's Son, and his righteousness was freely given to us. And after that declaration, the track really gets moving, with purpose and direction as the drums come in and the full sound of all the instruments come together. The lyrics then continue on to tell of the great grace that was put on display as Christ soaked up wrath for us in his death, and he defeated hell and death in his resurrection. The song really hits its climax at the end, like a good epic song should, in a sort of a wall of sound feel, thick blaring guitars, crashing cymbals, thumping drums. I think the ending is it's emblematic of the weight of our guilt and condemnation being lifted off of us as we embrace the unbelievable grace that God has given us in Christ. I love this song because I think it delivers on both an instrumental level and a lyrical level. It's moving, it's full of substance on both fronts, and that's the type of Christian music that I long for more of. It's musically creative, it's well performed, and it's lyrically just a breath of fresh air for my soul. To hear the gospel so artistically declared within the context of music like this is a real blessing. I mean, music like this helps me rest in the gospel, helps me rest in what Christ has done for me. And I hope it does the same thing for you. I mean, this is really good stuff. Nothing out of the ordinary from the guys over at Face Down Records, their label. But this track really has me excited for My Epic's EP, Viscera, which, like I said, comes out May 5th. Don't sleep on these guys. Don't miss this. Link in the description to check out this song. Next recommendation, Aha Gazelle with the single Daryl Coley FLP. I don't know what the FLP stands for, so don't even ask. I tried looking it up. I'm an idiot. I can't figure it out. Anyway, Aha Gazelle is a rapper and hip-hop artist who I really don't know that much about. He's from Louisiana. I also know he's got a few albums under his belt. But this single here that he released recently, I don't know if this is coming from a future album or EP release. If it's a standalone single, not really sure. And if you know, you want to drop some knowledge, speak up, let me know. This track opens with a clip of Aha and a woman going back and forth about who's this track about. You know, he's saying the song's about you, and she's saying, no, it's not. The clip ends with her saying, I'm sick of all these love songs. I liked you better when you rapped. And with that, I mean, it's like a starter pistol. He just bursts off with an almost non-stop flow for the next 7 minutes. In all reality, I guess, there are a few moments throughout this track where things slow down. He gets a break. He takes a breather. But definitely 5 to 6 minutes of this track is just bar after bar after bar. I mean, he's trying to jam so many words, so many lines into this track. It actually causes him to sort of straggle behind the track a few times, just behind the beat a little bit. I mean, he's just going and going, pulling in air as fast as he can, just trying to keep up with it. I think Aha delivers this just a fantastic flood of words on this track. And before you even know what he's saying, I mean, it's already impressive how he's saying it. In terms of lyrics, it seems to be about Aha's experience as a rapper and artist, his impressions of the music industry. He raps too about his musical influences as well. By the name of the song, I'm guessing Daryl Coley was one of those influences. Daryl Coley was a gospel singer who died just last month at the age of 60. And I think the sample at the end of this track is probably from Daryl Coley, like a song or a live performance. I'm not totally sure, but that would be fitting. The production of this track, too, is definitely not something to be ignored. For the first portion of the song, it's mostly just a swirl of synths and some strings, no percussion, no beat at all. And about 1.5 minutes into the song, it comes into full fruition and kicks in with the driving, head-knocking beat. And I also love how the instrumental, it really smoothly and gradually fades into like a jazzy, soulful R&B feel for just a few bars around the middle. It doesn't last very long before heading back to that trap feel, but I thought it was a cool little subtle departure from the straight path that the main beat drives you down. If you have 7 minutes to spare, and I'm betting you do, 7 minutes, guys, come on. Take the time to check this track out. It's just his flow, his vocal persistence alone is commendable. It's a great single. Pretty cool what he's doing on it. Check the link below. Listen to it. You got 7 minutes. I know you do. I don't know you do. I'm hoping you do. I'm guessing you do. Let's move on. Third recommendation, Street Hymns, Slow and Steady. Street Hymns is a rapper who I mentioned just a few weeks ago for his track 9 Grand, which appears on this newest record. So I've given some background before about Street Hymns, so I'm just going to jump straight into the album. If you're curious to know more about him, or specifically my thoughts on 9 Grand, check out that video from a few weeks ago. In regards to this album, Slow and Steady, if you're a fan of lyrics in hip-hop, if that's what you're drawn to, clever, witty snippets and turns of phrase, if they're exactly what you love about hip-hop, then this album is definitely something you need to pick up, which it's free, by the way. Through Rapzilla, you can download this whole thing for absolutely nothing. So it's an absolute steal. Definitely pick this up. The lyrics that Street Hymns somehow manages to weave together are shockingly well crafted. He's got a really incredible handle of his words, employing the use of double meanings, similar sounding words that sort of play off each other, both hilarious and thoughtful metaphors. He also uses a lot of phrases with references to TV shows, movies, video games, cartoons, plenty of other corners of pop culture. He's just got a great blend of lighthearted playfulness and serious moments as well that are meant to teach you something, to make an impact on your heart. And when I first put this album on, I was kind of uncertain about the length of the album. It's just a couple minutes over an hour. An overwhelming majority of albums at this length cannot hold my attention and display real artistic creativity for the whole length. There's usually a handful of filler tracks, a significant portion of lull in the album where it just drops out. But what I was really impressed by with this album is that his lyrical talent, his skill are on point through the whole thing. I mean, this is an hour of music where he is suave and snappy with his bars throughout, which is, like I said, that's unusual. That's really amazing. Hats off to Street Hymns for working so hard on this, to fill these tracks with such good bars, such good lyrics. There were some tracks, that I liked more than others, but there weren't any throwaway filler type of tracks. The one thing I do think was a little detrimental to the album as a whole was just the production. The instrumentals, the beats on these tracks are just, I think, too inconsequential to the feel of this album. The album really rests on the backs of the cavernous depths of the lyrics and the unified and comically narrated story of the tortoise and the hare told throughout in a handful of these scenes. These two features of the album make it memorable, but the production is not something I can remember. The instrumental sides of these tracks are just too minimal, too ordinary to stand out. And I don't remember production moments on this album. I remember phrases. I remember vocal moments. Now, having such pale, colorless production and instrumentals actually helps the lyrics on some level, take center stage. But I do think the production could have been better. I think it was just the weakest link in the chain, and I think it did end up sort of pulling down the experience of the album as a whole. Overall, though, I do think this is an album I couldn't help but mention. I mean, it's a great experience nonetheless to listen through, despite its length, despite its production flaws. I think it actually does overcome those hurdles. And if you listen in, you pay attention, I do think it can hold your attention. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on in these tracks, but you do, have to focus in to see it clearly. Street Hymns is definitely bringing it slow and steady on this album. It's not an all-out sprint. It's a consistent, determined journey of hard work and perseverance from beginning to end. So check the links below. Like I said, it's a free album, so you have nothing to lose by picking this one up, except your time. But what's your time really worth? How many Netflix shows have you watched this week? Exactly. Okay, final recommendation. Tom Crouch with his EP, A Civil War of Head and Heart. Tom Crouch is a singer-songwriter from London. This EP that I'm bringing to you is his debut release, actually, releasing independently. I caught wind of this EP when The Drop from Relevant Magazine was streaming this record before its release, but now it is out. It's on Spotify, it's on all the other places, you know the drill. On this EP, I think it's the mood and the color of the entire thing that takes it from good to great. It's got a consistent, mature sound, a delicate heart. The soft moments and the falsetto vocals are personal and inviting, and the big moments are passionate and inspiring. This album doesn't excite me because of incredible instrumental performances or dramatic melodies or clever arrangements, although there was some of each of those things sprinkled throughout, like the acoustic guitar on the intro of the track Love Me Patiently, the smooth, bluesy guitar just breaking your heart on the song Safe in My Arms, or even the uplifting vocal melody in the first track Weary Love. But overall, I think I just found this EP to be a really pleasant and reflective experience. In terms of sound, I felt like this EP had moments that reminded me of Bon Iver, John Mayer, Gungor, or any number of alternative rock groups with significant folk influences. Now, all of that is no surprise when you realize he collaborated with musicians Aaron Sterling, who has worked with John Mayer, and John Joseph, who has worked with Gungor. Tom Crouch himself has even collaborated with both John Mayer and Gungor, as well as a handful of other acclaimed artists. And just like 8 hours before this video, he posted a photo of him hanging out with John Mayer on his Facebook. So two dudes are like that, I guess. And if you go to his YouTube page, you can see he even covered Bon Iver a couple times. So the influences are definitely there, definitely wearing it on his sleeve. The sound of this EP, therefore, isn't really groundbreaking. It's a sound similar to many of Tom Crouch's contemporaries. But like I said, a unique sound is not what caught my attention here. It's just the overall singular presentation that you get on this EP. It's memorable, it's affecting. And if I'm not making sense, if you're thinking, I don't know what you mean, why did you like this? Look, I can barely put my finger on the exact reason of why this album was special to me. To be honest, I feel like if it was a full-length album, I wouldn't like it as much, because without more unique and interesting features to it, a full-length album might become stale before it's over. It might lose its effect. But for this 17-minute EP, it's a perfect fit. So if you like music that feels both melancholy and sort of pondering, but still has a conventional rock or pop structure and familiarities to it, give this EP a listen. It's very good, worth your time. Set aside some time one evening, to just put some headphones in, take a moment to yourself. Okay, folks, we made it. We have made it to the end of the show. This was a long one. This is to make up for last week, no recommendations. This week, 4 recommendations. Thank you for watching the Discern Recap. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel. New episodes of this show are releasing every Wednesday. And if you have a specific album, EP, or single that you've been chomping at the bit to share with someone, make that someone me and share it below this video. Alternatively, you could tweet at me at discernreviews. You could send me an email, discernreviews@gmail.com. Did you listen to any of the new music I mentioned? What did you think of it? Did you agree with me? Disagree with me? Whatever your opinion, I welcome it all. Anyway, I hope this helped. See ya.